you wanted the best, you've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hello, this is Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com. Ladies and gentlemen, there are ladies and that makes official. Welcome to the big show. As always, for 16 years and 2,800 episodes, we bring you the Chris Voss Show and all the most amazing minds. People are out there. And boy, all right, enough clapping. I know you love me. Too bad that was all automated, right? Today we had an amazing young man on the show. We're going to be talking about his book called Find the Black Box, The Solution No One Else is Talking About, by Dr. Ira Williams. We're going to get into some of his other books on Medicare and talking about why the U.S. healthcare system has some issues. Opinions expressed by guests on the podcast are solely their own and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the host or the Chris Voss Show. Some guests of the show may be advertising on the podcast, but it is not an endorsement or review of any kind. Today's featured author comes to us from bookstolifemarketing.co.uk. With expert publishing to strategic marketing, they help authors reach their audience and maximize their book's success. If you've ever been involved in it, you've probably seen this turned issue. So we're going to get it with him, talk to him about his experiences, insights, and maybe what we should be thinking about according to him. Dr. Ira Williams is a board-certified oral surgeon. In writing his 4 books on healthcare, he has recognized why the current system is broken and how to begin a fair system. Everyone just gets needles and syringes and maybe some sutures and just does their own surgery from here on out, maybe. Is that the way to do it, Ira?
You bet.
Everyone does their own surgeries. So, Ira, give us your .coms. Where can people find you on the interwebs?
At drirawilliams.com.
So give us a 30,000 overview. What's in this book?
First, people need to understand, I don't know how many people recognize the name Dr. Marty McCary. President Trump made him head of Federal Drug Administration, but he's written 4 books. He was a internationally renowned surgeon at Johns Hopkins. And
was he the guy with the talk show, the Dr. Boz, or is it
no, it's Dr. McCary.
Okay, I'm getting him.
And in 2012, in mid-November of 12, he published his first book focused on teaching hospital medical staffs, and his one-word title, Unaccountable, speaks volumes. And when I read his book, when I closed the book after reading it, I said, I've got to write another book. And so his book caused me to write and publish Find the Black Box, Prevent Needless Hospital Deaths in 2013.
Wow. And so you've been a veteran of the medical industry for how many decades now, I think?
I entered the system in January 1962 as a dental intern.
Yeah.
Which is about the lowest level you can be in a teaching hospital as a dental intern, but that allowed me to be inside the system and behind the curtain, and my education began in January 1962.
Now, what was the healthcare-like system back then, and how much has it changed? Or, you might be here forever if you're trying to talk about how much it changed, but was it working back then? Did we have an acknowledgement of an accurate system back then, or was it still broken back then?
It's always been broken. I can walk people through the historical evolution, beginning with the Pilgrims at Plymouth Rock in 1620.
Oh, well, I think they were escaping persecution and looking for good health care.
I can describe the healthcare system in the 1600s and the 1700s and the 1800s and the 1900s and currently. And if you follow that evolution, it appears as if a bunch of people who really didn't know what they were doing was creating what we've got now.
Lovely. I'm glad it worked out. So
well, it hasn't worked out as well as it should, and that's the problem.
What? Yeah, I had 2 hernia surgeries at the end of last year, and I was stunned at how poor the healthcare system was. And just to give a background on that, I haven't had a surgery or been really in hospital since I was 22. So I'm 58 now. So minus 22 is 36-ish. And I haven't been in a hospital. I haven't needed surgery. I've never had any major ER thing, knock on wood. But to see, I basically had to run the system. Like I had to coordinate the doctor and the hospital, and like they just kept bungling it, fucking up. I ever reset my thing, and then when they did charge me for it, they charged me $125,000 to my insurance company for both surgeries each. I paid a small amount because of insurance, but still $125,000. I mean, I basically bought a small house with 2 hernia surgeries for somebody. And the work that I had to go through to get everyone to have their shit together, it was like a job. Like I should have billed them for my time. So yeah, I'm kind of familiar with what's going on nowadays. Of course, everyone complains about it.
You remember my assessment of the current system was becoming a patient in any hospital in America is like shooting craps in Las Vegas. Not everybody comes out a winner. And I've shot craps in Las Vegas and the French Riviera and a few other places here and abroad. And sadly, that's what it is now. Becoming a patient in any hospital in America is like shooting craps in Las Vegas.
That's why I hire all my back alley surgeons in Las Vegas. I just go in that, or I just lay on the craps table and cut me open, doc. And the pit boss says, security. Now, it leads off on the front of the book here. It says 200,000 preventable deaths each year in the U.S. healthcare system is going on. And according to you, they are needless hospital deaths. It's basically the same as having 20 Boeing 747s airliners crashing each week. Wow. That's quite a statement.
It actually got worse than that. That figure came up in 1989 after 4 years of research in upstate New York hospitals by a group of doctors out of Harvard School of Public Health. But in 2016, Dr. Marty McCary again, he and a co-author published a paper that said that medical errors are the third leading cause of death in the U.S. behind heart disease and cancer. And unfortunately, not an eye blinked in Washington, D.C., and not an eye blinked in any of the 50 state capitals. And I don't understand that, because I don't think anybody that should have taken note of that paper ever read it.
Wow. You know, I've always had one of those horror scenario nightmares that you think about every now and then, because you'll hear of somebody who went in and they were supposed to have their right arm removed or something for cancer, something, and they accidentally remove the left arm, or they take out the wrong kidney, and
that happens.
All that shit. And I was laying the first time I went for my hernia, they were going to do the integral hernia first, which is in your groin area. And then I had the belly button one. But the groin area was one I needed to get fixed. Like we were having some severe pain and other issues. And so when I went in, I laid down, I was laying there on the gurney, getting ready to, they're prepping me. And my doc comes in. He's a great doc, wonderful doc. It's just a simple thing. But he starts drawing on my belly button with a marker and starts telling me the procedure he's going to do with my belly button. And I'm like, whoa, doc. We're supposed to do the inguinal hernia, not the belly button. He goes, oh, I'm glad you mentioned that. And I just had one of those horror things. I'm probably going to wake up with my privates gone and still have my hernias. One of those things where they're like, yeah, we cut off that cancer, but you won't be able to have sex ever again. And you're like, I was in here for a hernia, that sort of thing. So,
I can relate to that, because I was the second surgeon for some gross malpractice in Madison, Wisconsin, in all 3 private hospitals over a period of about 8 to 10 years. And there's nothing worse for a surgeon to be called to do than to be the second surgeon to correct something that the first surgeon screwed up.
Yeah. I've been sued for gross malpractice before, but mostly for being gross, and it's my ex-girlfriends that usually sue me over it. I don't know. That's the best joke I can come up with people right off the top.
Yeah,
You're just gonna have to live with it.
I relate some of that story in my latest book, Malpractice in Medicine.
Mm. So you refer to the black box as kind of a reference to airlines or airplanes have a black box, and that black box will sometimes be the honest rendering or a factual rendering of what maybe happened to the plane and what happened to the people. And so you kind of refer that, find the black box. And there's some facts that you have. You know, one of the things I find frustrating with the health system is these, I don't know if you agree with me, I'll just say this term and you're the pro at this and researching it, but they have these localized state-run monopolies of healthcare systems. And like, it is such a pain in the ass. I visit Utah a lot. I live in Vegas. And if I need medical care up here that isn't an emergency, I've got to go back to Vegas to get covered. And that's just so dumb. I mean, we should be able to move around the world, around the nation without, you know, I don't need to worry if I have a heart attack in New York, if I'm going to be covered. And in fact, I think the way the policy reads, I end up paying more. So it's like my fault that I had a heart attack in New York instead of waiting until I get home. Does that make any sense to you?
It does, in that I live in South Carolina, and the healthcare, the delivery system in South Carolina is dominated by a very few large healthcare systems that control multiple hospitals. And the largest one is headquartered where I live in Greenville, South Carolina, in the northern part of the state.
And it's crazy now. And has that big, have you studied that big, beautiful bill? Has that contributed to better hospice care or not?
Well, I think the biggest thing that's contributed to hopefully leading us toward better health care are the 4 experts that President Trump picked to really shepherd that. Bobby Kennedy and Dr. McCary and Dr. Oz and Dr. Barclay. I hope I didn't butcher his name, at the NIH. But I feel these 4 are genuinely trying to redirect identify many of the problems in the current system and redirect toward a more positive approach, hoping to improve the system. So I was very excited when the day I was watching on TV when he introduced what I call his 4 healthcare musketeers. And I think if people will calm down and give them an opportunity, they're going to see some positive things. But here's what they can't do. And that is the healthcare delivery system. My area of expertise is doctors, hospitals, and surgery centers. And you have to improve that aspect at the state level. Governors and state legislators are supposed to regulate and create the overall architecture for the organizational structure of their state's healthcare delivery system. And no governor and no state legislator, past or present, has ever had a clue on how to really go about that.
And is part of it the medical lobby that lobbies for, basically to not be regulated or not have to deal with regulations and stuff? Is that one of the problems that, the politicians bend to the will of these folks?
That was embedded. If you go back to the Pilgrims at Plymouth Rock, 1620, to 2025, that's 405 years. All right, the first 345 years from 620 to 1965, doctors pretty much ran the system.
Mm.
And then Lyndon Johnson and the Democratic Congress jumped into healthcare like a bull in a china shop and made how to pay for healthcare after the fact more important than the delivery system. And since then, they've just been beating down the medical staffs.
Mm.
And when I heard members of Congress, Senator Tillis of North Carolina, bemoaning what the big, beautiful bill would do to rural hospitals,
Yeah.
he was demonstrating his ignorance, because governors and state legislators have been treating rural hospitals like illegitimate children at a family reunion for decades.
Evidently, some of that federally government money was keeping those things open, and they dramatically pulled that back. They dramatically pulled everything back. I mean, they took away $1 billion in funding for medicine that was there already.
What they're trying to do is identify fraud and reduce fraud. We're just inundated with fraud everywhere you look, and yet the Democrats apparently don't want them to identify and eliminate fraud. We're losing so much money needlessly, but to understand healthcare, you've got to separate how to pay for healthcare from the healthcare delivery system. You can't mix the two. If you want to talk about Medicare, Medicaid, insurance, how to pay for healthcare, which is important, okay, then focus on that. But if you want to begin to improve the delivery system, doctors, hospitals, and surgery centers, you've got to focus on that and never mention how to pay for healthcare. And to improve that area, you've got to focus on the state level. And I can do that. I'm looking to speak to live audiences of people who would like to begin to gain a far better understanding of healthcare.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting, the major cutbacks they did. I mean, I'm not sure that reducing benefits is a way to find fraud, but yeah. And in fact, I'm looking at something here just as recently as March 2nd, 2026, rural hospitals are closing after the cuts from the big, beautiful bill. And Democrats warned it would happen. It's pretty obvious it would happen if you're going to eliminate $1 trillion in federal support for healthcare. I mean, you can kick it down to the states and say, sorry, states, you got to deal with this BS now. But most of the states don't have a lot of funding for that either. So it's kind of interesting.
Wait a minute. Let me give you an example of that.
Sure.
Nikki Haley was governor of South Carolina for 6 years. And in her 6 years, rural hospitals were closing. And in fact, as she was packing her bags to go to New York to become ambassador to the UN, 3 rural hospitals were closing, including the rural hospital in her hometown, and she never said a word. And that was, 9 years ago, almost 10 years ago.
I mean, these rural hospitals have always been on the edge.
Oh, they like I say, they've been treated like illegitimate children at a family reunion. It's horrible what they see. The larger hospitals want to dominate them, and now they do.
Yeah.
And that was where all this was headed. And it's a shame.
So what other sort of ways should maybe things be active in changing the hospital business? My understanding is the lobbyists and the big corporations, the big hospitals, like you mentioned, the big insurance plans, like they mentioned, the problem is they lobby so they can do whatever they want. They don't have accountability. I mean, there was supposed to be a program put in where they were going to have, this is, I think, Trump's first term, where they were going to have full transparency for pricing. You know, like when I go to McDonald's, I know how much a Big Mac is going to cost. When I went to get my hernias done, my doctor could tell me how much he was charging, but the hospital couldn't. So it was just like $250,000 just showed up. And it was insane too. I think I paid like $56,000 each time to be in the hospital for 4 hours. Like the most expensive rent I've ever paid.
Unfortunately, COVID pretty much wrecked Trump's last year of his first term. And during the Biden debacle, he gave a lot of thought to things that he didn't realize in the first term. And now in this second term, he has a cabinet that is rock stars. They're all working together. But the problem is, the first thing they have to do is dig out the big hole that Biden created in 4 years.
That's an interesting opinion. I'm not sure that we see that these are rock stars. We've interviewed a lot of people who've been on White House boards, and there's a lot of infighting, as there always is in Donald Trump's administration.
It has to be. Yeah.
He pits everyone against each other. I mean, it's kind of the fascist way. So I'm not sure what you're seeing or where you're getting your news, but from all I've seen, it's a clown show. Yeah, I don't know that those guys are going to fix anything. This is a regime that's interested in one man and himself, not America. I think we've clearly seen that in the behavior that we've seen so far. So I'm not sure I'm going to rely on any of these guys. I mean, Dr. Oz is about the biggest fucking quack there is. Have you ever seen the shit that he's pushed on his show? When he had his show, he pushed so much buyout garbage that he was paid on the table to do. It was just insane, some of the things that he would recommend. Yeah, I disagree with you.
I did not follow him closely.
You should do some more research.
I wasn't interested in that aspect. My interest is in the organizational structure of the delivery system in hospitals and surgery centers. And that's my area of expertise.
Is one of the problems, this might harken back to when I had you on the show before, or maybe it was somebody else that said this to me, but they said one of the problems is the insurance company is the middleman. And that's really not how it's supposed to be. Do you find any truth to that? I don't know if it was you or somebody else told me that.
I stay away from I have been in Medicare and Medicaid headquarters outside Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
And that large building was surrounded by an enormous parking lot, meaning they've got a lot of worker bees in there working their magic. And I have little trust in bureaucratic things that they're doing in the area of DC.
Okay.
And the aspects regarding the quality of care and patient safety, Congress between 1970 and 2010 had created 5 agencies that were supposed, each in their own way, to begin to improve the quality of care and patient safety.
Yeah.
And they've all, each in their own way, been absolute failures.
Wow. Yeah. The thing I started saying about Donald Trump's first term, where I think he signed an executive order or legislation where the hospitals were supposed to disclose their pricing, just like you'd find in the menu of McDonald's. Somehow they've skirted it. Like they're not doing it. I don't know how or why that's happening, but evidently they're getting away with it because you ask them for pricing and they're like, we'll get back to you on that.
Of course they're going to do everything they can to avoid that.
I thought do we need more patient advocacy laws? You know how the airlines have a thing where if you show up for your flight and they delay you, they have to either pay you back or if they kick you. It didn't used to be that way, and they finally had to make advocacy rules. Do we need to do that in healthcare where we say, patients have some rights?
I don't think we need more rules. I think we need more detailed study of the current system. And I know how to go into the system and identify failures, but no one in the decision-making process, like governors and legislators at state level, really want to hear the truth.
Yeah. And I think, like I said, a lot of them are bought off by lobbyists. So big core lobbyists. This is the reason they won't legalize pot. This is the reason they won't, do a lot of great healthcare things because it's a business. I mean,
healthcare is big money, big money.
Yeah. Do you think that, one of the things that we have with the U.S. government in its negotiations and prescription that it does with Medicare and Medicaid is they negotiate hard volume pricing for services and medical prescriptions. And so they usually get, I guess, a better deal on those things. Should maybe just Medicare take over everything and then just force companies to lower prices?
That would be horrible.
Yeah.
Medicare has been in existence for 60 years.
Mm-hmm.
What have they got to show for it? It's a mess.
Yeah.
You've got experts saying, they know what needs to, and they've got a 60-year track record showing they don't know.
Mm.
You've got to understand the history of the various aspects of healthcare to make better judgments of what probably is wrong. And when you're talking about cost and access or how to pay for it, we've got a 60-year history of Medicare and Medicaid, and it's a disaster.
Yeah.
Obamacare was really bad.
I mean, in what sense?
It didn't do what it said it was going to do. It was the biggest, easiest assessment you can make. They made certain claims about it, and none of them came true.
Yeah. The ACA, the way the ACA was set up, I'm on the ACA. The ACA, the way it was set up, it was not supposed to be a finished product because Republicans tried everything they could to keep it from being passed. But they got enough people on the votes to scrape it by. But it was supposed to be continuously improved, upgraded, and tweaked. And it really never was. It was just kind of attacked, and they tried everything they do to stop it or shut it down. And so that was one of the problems with the ACA. I think the ACA is great. Most Americans have found it to be great that are on it. My business partner had a lot of genetic hereditary heart problems. All of his family had high blood pressure and heart problems. And so he had heart problems very young with our companies. And one of the problems we had is he'd been to the doctors so many times, they wouldn't insure him anymore because they're pre-existing conditions because he'd been in the hospital. And so it was like a death knell for him until the ACA came along and made it so that we struck that pre-existing conditions thing. Yeah, I mean, it was supposed to be improved. And I think, once again, we can blame the politicians for that.
I think one of the things you miss is Obamacare would have never happened if Chief Justice Roberts hadn't referred to it as a tax and gave the deciding vote, and if former Republican Senator McCain hadn't voted for it. If he had voted down,
we all know
we'd have
that.
never had Obamacare. So it only slid by the slightest margin.
No, hold on. I think you have that correct. I can Google this, but Donald Trump in the Republican Congress, or the House, I think they controlled at the time, was trying to cancel Obamacare. It was already in place and been in place for much long. When John McCain turned his thumb down in that famous scene, that was him saying that he would not vote to cancel Obamacare and the ACA. Where do you pick up your news? It's Fox News, right, that you pick up your news from?
Here and there, but I'm what I would refer to as a conservative.
Yeah. You can be conservative. You don't have to watch that. But you might want to broaden your news intake to more reliable sources. Fox News is not.
Well, and I don't spend that much time with any interest in how to pay for health care.
Yeah.
My expertise is strictly on the delivery system.
Yeah.
And that is primarily at the state level and the local level. I think 90% of what comes out of Washington, D.C. is good luck anyhow. The areas I have interest at the federal level are the 5 quality of care and patient safety agencies that Congress had created between 1970 and 2010.
Okay. And then, do we get a plug-in for your second book? I know we want to talk about that as well.
Yeah, Healthcare Warriors is the smallest of the 3 books that I have on healthcare that are active right now, and it is a book that the target audience for that book is activists in any state who would like to begin to create an organization, a grassroots organization, focus on their state's healthcare delivery system, and who would like to contact me and see if I could help them begin to create something. But if you're going to want to make positive change at the state level, you really need a grassroots organization that works enough to become sufficiently organized and knowledgeable so that they can begin to challenge the decision makers in their state capital. And I can help them do that.
Oh, and so you consult, you speak, you help give advice and these things?
Yeah. My goal is to help people who would really like to begin to gain a far better understanding of their and their loved ones' healthcare delivery system. Nothing to do with how to pay for it at all. Strictly doctors, hospitals, and surgery centers.
Now, the other book you had we want to get a plug-in for was Malpractice in Madison. Yeah. Breaking the Code of Silence, a whistleblower's story exposes selective stupidity. Tell us about that.
That last phrase, selective stupidity, is directed at so many of the people, particularly those elected, who are, you assume, highly educated and highly intelligent, but for one reason or another choose to be selectively stupid about some serious issue in their domain of decision making. Governors and state legislators. Healthcare is, let me give you an example.
Okay.
In South Carolina, the Senate has 14 standing committees. The House has 13 standing committees. And when I print them out, I can put both on one page. So you got 26 standing committees in the state legislature, and the word healthcare doesn't appear on the page.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that's what I refer to as selectively stupid.
Might be just generally stupid, really.
Well, I'm trying to give them a little bit.
Trying to give it out.
Yeah.
You can save yourself, folks. Just listen to Dr. Williams here. Yeah. Is there any advocacy you can give to people that maybe are out there listening that are, dealing with medical things, and is there anything advocate-wise they can do for themselves to get better results out of their healthcare system, as stupid selectively as it is?
Again, I believe if I could begin to speak to audiences and show some people how fairly rapidly they can gain a much greater understanding of their state's healthcare system, I think that could light some fires. But because to change the healthcare delivery system, you got to do it at the state level, and you got to have enough people who have a sufficient understanding of how to go about putting the pieces together.
And it's good to know how to put those pieces together, as it were. So as we go out, give people your final pitch out on what you want as your offer, what you want them to do, how they can reach out to you, how they can hire you, contact you, etc.
My email is the same as my website, Dr. Ira Williams. The email is at gmail.com, and the website is drirawilliams.com. And they can email me from that website as well. And I'm just looking for people. Right now, we've got the political circus going on. We've got 6 candidates hoping to be the next Republican nominee for governor here in South Carolina, and I think 3 Democrats. And we got congressmen having to, run if they have opposition. They won't be reelected, and we've got state legislators, and so we're in that biannual political circus now, and it's a good time for people who are really interested, have a desire to want to begin to gain a better understanding of healthcare and try to get people in their state capitals to begin to talk more often and more deeply about the problems in that system. Now's a good time to light some fires.
Yeah. You got to remember, people, if you don't like your politicians, if you don't like the way the government's handling, you have the power to vote. Don't vote like a bunch of dumb idiots like you do anyway now.
Well, try to gain some insight.
Get some insight.
What I want to try to do is demystify the healthcare system. And I feel I can do that.
People should check out your books. Definitely read them and find out more how to advocate for the hospital thing. I mean, let's stop watching Kardashians and watching people jumping off into stupid things, breaking their back on YouTube and TikTok. Like if everyone sat down and probably spent an hour a day skipping their Kardashians, The Bachelor, and all that shit that's on TV, that's just awful garbage, really, seriously. It's just melting your brain, people, and lowering your IQ. And it's probably designed to keep you passive so that Big Pharma can farm you. Yeah, wake up, spend that hour, maybe calling your senator, congressman, raising hell, finding out how the system works, trying to advocate to have it improved. Enough people yell and scream. It's just like that movie Network. Get off your TV, go to your window and say, I'm mad as hell. I'm not going to take it anymore. Because if you don't, I mean, the medical system right now is kind of in a collapse. Not only did the big, beautiful bill take $2 trillion away from federal funding for everything when it comes to healthcare, it put a lot of people out of the system. I know people that had to give up their health insurance because health insurance has soared because of the big, beautiful bill. And it's going to get worse. And there's fewer people entering the healthcare system too. So they not only have a money problem and all the problems, there's going to be fewer doctors, which means you're going to wait longer to get service. If you can find it, you're going to, it's going to be a mess. And every doctor I have on just tells me it's going to get really bad and it's going to get really costly. So, and I'm old now, so I'm starting to have, there's like nothing going wrong with me, but those hernias were a good indication that the times of my life where you visit lots of hospitals and look at doctors and stuff is not good. And I'm not going there to chase the hot nurses, which I would like to do. I'm going there to go, I think this looks infected, doc. Anyway, guys, don't go to Thailand, folks. That's all I'm saying. Ira, it's been wonderful to have you on again. Give us your .com as we go out.
DRIRAWilliams.com. Email, same thing, DRIRAWilliams@gmail.com.
Thank you very much, Ira, for coming on the show. Thank you for tuning in. Order up his book wherever fine books are sold. You can get all 3 of them, in fact. Find the Black Box, the solution no one else is talking about, out now on all those fine places. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss1 on the TikTok, getting in all those crazy places on the internet. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you next.
You've been listening to the most amazing, intelligent podcast ever made to improve your brain and your life. Warning, consuming too much of the Chris Voss Show podcast can lead to people thinking you're smarter, younger, and irresistible sexy. Consume in regularly moderated amounts. Consult a doctor for any resulting brain bleed.
All right, Ira, that'll have us out in the final